1.
مذكرة التفاهم أو اتفاق الإطار بين الولايات المتحدة وإيران والتي تم التوقيع عليها من قبل الرئيسين الأمريكي والإيراني أربكت الجانب الإسرائيلي وأثارت تحفظات بسبب تداعياتها من الناحية السياسية والأمنية على البلاد. نستضيف معنا اليوم من أجل استيضاح الموقف السيد يعقوب عميدرور، والذي أشغل منصب مستشار الأمن القومي الإسرائيلي وكذلك مناصب استخبارية عدة. أهلا بك سيد يعقوب.
أهلا.
هنالك من يرى في إسرائيل بأنه مع هذه النتائج ربما كان من الأفضل أنه لو لم تخوض إسرائيل الحرب منذ البداية في 28 من فبراير. هل توافق هذا الرأي؟
No, I don't agree with the assumption that the last war against Iran was a mistake. First of all, we didn't know what will happen at the end, and the surprise of the agreement between the Americans and the Iranians is something that we couldn't anticipate. But I think it is more than that. The Americans wanted the war. The President of the United States called the Iranians to get out to the street, and he said, America is coming to save you. The February, as the beginning of the war, was not convenient from the Israeli point of view. We had an idea how we should make the second round, which should not happen in February. It should happen in the summer, around the time that we are now. And the Americans said to us, no, now, because they wanted to be shown as those who are coming to save the Iranian people. So I don't think that we made any mistake. We couldn't say to the Americans, no, we are not going to war against Iran. We were more than happy that the Americans are joining us in the war against Iran. Iran is an aggressive force in the Middle East. It should be oppressed by both America and Israel. And the fact that at the end of the war, which was too early finished by the Americans made this agreement. It's something that we couldn't take into account when the war was at the beginning.
لكن في البداية عندما بدأت هذه الحرب كان رئيس الحكومة الإسرائيلية حدد العديد من الأهداف، بينها تدمير المشروع النووي الإيراني وكذلك الصواريخ البالستية، تهيئة الظروف لاستبدال النظام، ومنع وصول تمويل لمن يعتبرون بأنهم تنظيمات تعمل لصالح إيران. كل هذا انقلب، وهذا ربما يدل أو ربما يعكس المخاوف للإسرائيليين وأولئك الذين يقولون ربما من الأفضل لو لم تدخل إسرائيل في هذه الحرب.
No question that the Americans surprised us in this agreement. No one knows how to explain the change in the American mood. Something that we cannot anticipated. We didn't know about the change. But I have to say that unlike what people are saying, at least in one area, the success is very prominent. Mm-hmm. The Iranians lost the proxies. Hamas is not relevant as a threat to Israel. It's relevant inside the Gaza Strip. If someone wants to rebuild Gaza, Hamas will not let it happen. But for Israel as a threat, it's not relevant. We killed the commander of Hamas in Gaza and no one said a word from Gaza. Hezbollah is fighting for its existence. Because of the collapse of the land bridge from Iran to the Mediterranean, because Syria now is hostile to Hezbollah, the Iranians cannot rebuild Hezbollah in Lebanon as they did in the past. They can bring money, they can bribe the people in Lebanon, but they can make people in Lebanon afraid because they can assassinate them, but they cannot build Hezbollah. And Hezbollah now is fighting about its existence. Something totally different from the Iranian strategy happened, that the Iranians now are fighting to defend the proxies instead of the proxies will do the work for the Iranians. Because that was the idea of the Iranians. That the proxies around Israel will be the ring of fire, which will crumble Israel when Iran's immunity will be kept because they are far away. What's happening now, it is Iran vis-a-vis Israel directly, because the Iranians want to save the existence of Hezbollah in Lebanon. They lost in Gaza, but they still believe that they can save Hezbollah. So this is a fact on the ground. Doesn't connect to what the Americans will do or will not do. Of course, the mistake of the Americans to give the Iranians a say in Lebanon is a huge, huge mistake, because It's brought the Iranians back to Lebanon with legitimacy from Washington, and even the government of Lebanon cannot say, okay, we will disarm Hezbollah because the Americans gave Hezbollah and its ally Iran a say in Lebanon. This is why Israel is determined to keep the freedom of action in Lebanon, and if we have to.
لكن هذه السياسة سيد يعقوب عميدرور، وأنت عملت مستشارا لرئيس الحكومة بنيامين نتنياهو، هذه السياسة المتعلقة بلبنان والتي كانت في بداية الأمر يعني تقضي على فصل الجبهات بين إيران وبين حزب الله في لبنان، الآن تغيرت. إيران يعني تصر على أن التفاوض مع الولايات المتحدة يجب أن يكون مشروط بوقف إطلاق النار في لبنان، وهذا بطبيعة الحال لا يصب في صالح إسرائيل، أليس كذلك؟
It is bad for Israel, no question. The connection between the Iranian negotiations with the Americans and the fight of Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon should not be connected, and I hope that the government of Israel will be determined enough to explain to the Americans, I said, Americans, guys, what you do in Iran is the problem of the world, not ours. What you do in Lebanon is our problem. We have to defend our citizens and our soldiers, and we will continue to fight Hezbollah in Lebanon. And I think in this case, Israel should be very determined. It might be for some friction with the Americans. It's not the first time in which we don't agree with the Americans. It happened in the past, and happening probably today, and it will happen in the future. Israel is strong enough to say to the Americans, guys, in Lebanon, we continue to fight.
أنت ذكرت قبل قليل أن السياسة الأمريكية المتعلقة بهذه المسألة تجعل موطئ قدم لإيران في داخل لبنان، لكن ربما المخاطر الأكثر هي إمكانية أن يكون هنالك سباق تسلح في منطقة الشرق الأوسط بسبب هذا الاتفاق الذي يثير أيضا قلق يعني مزيد من الدول في هذه المنطقة. ما هو تقييمك بهذه المسألة؟
I don't think that will lead to arms race which would be totally different from what happened in the past. Iran is a very aggressive state. Iran is exporting the mukawama outside the Middle East. They want to sell it everywhere and to push it everywhere. That's what they did in Lebanon, what they did in Syria, that's what they did in Yemen, what they did in Iraq, and they will continue. So the situation in which Iran is pushing terror organizations, building proxies of Iran, arming people in the Middle East to help Iran to export the mukawama, it's not something new. It was in the past and it will happen in the future. I don't think that the agreement will change this mood. Will be probably the same as it was before the agreement.
دعني أوضح أكثر. ربما هنالك قلق لدى الدول العديدة في منطقة الشرق الأوسط أيضا من إيران وكذلك من إسرائيل، والعملية العسكرية لم تحسم، فبالتالي ربما هذا يؤدي إلى تحالفات إقليمية وربما سباق تسلح من أجل أن تحمي كل دولة نفسها.
I think that when the dust will come down, it will be understood that Israel was very cautious in this situation. We didn't extend the war to areas in which we didn't have a clear threat. The war in Gaza was initiated by Hamas, not by us. The war in Lebanon was initiated by Hezbollah, not by us. The war in Iran was initiated not by us, but by Iran. We attacked twice by the Iranians before we attacked in 25. So Israel was very cautious. We didn't extend the war into Syria. We didn't extend it to other countries in the Middle East. Only when we had been attacked by the other side, we retaliated. But we didn't initiate the war in any other place. So I think that the countries will understand, and then after all the noises will be down again, that Israel is very cautious and very responsible.
على ذكر سوريا، ما رأيك بما قاله الرئيس الأمريكي بأنه يفضل أن يقوم النظام السوري يعني بمحاربة حزب الله من أجل حماية إسرائيل بطريقة أو بأخرى؟
You know, many years ago, I asked a woman which came from Syria, a Sunni woman, what will happen if one day the Sunnis will win and find themselves controlling Syria. And she answered in less than a second, we will go in their blood to our knees. Meaning we will butcher them all. If the Sunnis of Syria will enter Lebanon to fight the Shiites, it's the end of the Shiite community in Lebanon. It will be ended with blood to the knees of the Sunnis. They will butcher, they will rape, they will kill everyone, because the animosity between the Sunnis in Syria and the Shiite in Lebanon is something which is very extreme, and people will pray that the Israelis will come again to help the Shiites to survive. By the way, that's what happened in Syria with the Alawites. The Alawites called the Israelis to come to save them when they face the regime in Syria. And that will happen in Lebanon again. People who don't understand the kind of the cruelness of the regime in Syria, if this regime has the opportunity to kill the Shiites of Lebanon, can give such advices.
طب ما هو تفسيرك إذن لهذا التحول في موقف الرئيس الأمريكي دونالد ترامب؟
I don't have any explanation. I'm not an expert for presidents of the United States of America. I'm looking at the situation and try to judge it. I'm not asking a question about people. It doesn't help.
هل برأيك هذا الاتفاق اتفاق الإطار قد يبعد اتفاق سلام بين إسرائيل وبين لبنان؟
I think that before the big mistake of the Americans to bring the Iranians in, we had good chance to have an agreement between Israel and Lebanon. Today, it was much less than before the agreement between Iran and America, because the Americans made, as I said, huge mistake to bring the Iranians into the equation, and now it is a very complicated situation.
طب نحن لا نزال نتحدث عن اتفاق إطار أو اتفاق يعني مذكرة تفاهم. السؤال المطروح هو هل في نهاية 60 يوما بإمكان الولايات المتحدة وإيران التوصل إلى اتفاق، رغم أن هنالك فجوات كبيرة بين الطرفين وكذلك عقبات، يعني مثلما تشترط إيران بأن يتم سحب الجيش الإسرائيلي من جنوبي لبنان.
I don't know. I think I don't can assess the situation after the 60 days. I was so surprised by the flexibility of the Americans in this agreement and their readiness to pay cash and to get back only letter of intent with so many ambiguities that I don't know what will happen in the future. You see that when it is coming to negotiations, the Iranians are very good negotiators, something that I cannot say about the American side.
دعنا ننتقل إلى قطاع غزة، وأنت كنت قد ذكرتها في بداية الحديث. حركة حماس لا تزال قائمة في قطاع غزة، هي تدير الأمور هناك من الناحية الأمنية، من الناحية المدنية، وذلك وفقا لتقارير إسرائيلية. كانت هنالك من قبل العديد من الدول يعني اقتراحات لإسرائيل بأن تتحمل السلطة الفلسطينية مسؤولية إدارة قطاع غزة. هل برأيك إسرائيل أخطأت في رفضها هذا؟
First of all, I believe that at the end of the day, the solution in Gaza will include the Palestinian Authority, which is now in the West Bank. Up till now, it was fruitless. The Palestinian Authority cannot fight Hamas in the West Bank. You know, they tried to enter to one of the refugee camps, and after 4 days they called the IDF and say, guys, they're killing us, come to save us. So they cannot deal with Hamas. After the disarming of Hamas, if that happened, one way or another, by force or by agreement, part of the solution in the West Bank will include, my personal view, the Palestinian Authority. Many people in Israel don't like it, because it is a very corrupted, inefficient authority. But my view is that they are right. It is corrupted and inefficient, but at least we know how to work with it. And they have legitimacy, kind of legitimacy within the Palestinians and internationally. So at the end of the day, I believe that they will be involved in the solution, but they cannot deal with Hamas. It's too big on them, many times too big. As I said, they cannot make it in the West Bank. For sure, they cannot make it in Gaza.
كان هنالك العديد من الوزراء الذين أرادوا إقامة مستوطنات في داخل قطاع غزة. هل برأيك بإمكان هؤلاء الوزراء أن يحققوا مآربهم في داخل القطاع؟
I think that we should not make any settlement in the West, in Gaza. That we have to recognize the sovereignty of the Palestinians as it was before the 7th of October. We have to have kind of a buffer zone inside the Palestinian side of the border, which will not allow Palestinians to reach the border between Israel and Gaza. They cannot touch the fence, and we will have to be very clear about it. Everyone which will come close to the fence will be killed, but we should not build any settlement inside Gaza Strip.
لكن في الأثناء هنالك يعني بناء مستوطنات بصورة مكثفة في داخل الضفة الغربية، وكان تقرير في صحيفة هآرتس عن هذه المسألة، بالإضافة إلى الاعتداءات المتكررة من قبل المستوطنين، وهذا طبعا ينقلنا إلى الضفة الغربية، من قبل المستوطنين ضد الفلسطينيين في الضفة. هل برأيك الحكومة تدعم أو على الأقل تتغاضى عن مثل هذه الاعتداءات والتعامل من قبل المستوطنين ضد الفلسطينيين؟
I think that the government is not supporting the attacks against the Palestinians, but if you ask me if we are doing enough to stop it, my view that we should do more, because it is against our interest. We are the sovereign in West Bank. We want to remain the sovereign in the West Bank, and if we want to be the sovereign, we have responsibility. And one of the responsibilities is to defend the citizens, the Palestinian citizens, that will not be attacked by Israelis. The truth is that the number of those who are doing it is very low. It's probably less than 500 people from one side to another. And we have more determined and more smart to stop it totally. It should not continue.
لكن كيف تفسر يعني تعامل الوزيرين المعروفين في إسرائيل بتسالئيل سموتريتش وإيتمار بن غفير بشأن التعامل مع اعتقال هؤلاء المعتدين والمتطرفين في داخل الضفة الغربية؟ يعني لا نشاهد اعتقالات ولا ضبط لهؤلاء المتطرفين في داخل الضفة.
I didn't say that we don't have responsibility. We are the sovereign, and because of that we have responsibility. Those two ministers are supporting the legal efforts of the State of Israel to build more settlements in Area C. And this is according to the agreement between us and the Palestinians. They can build in Area A and B, and we can build in Area C. This is the agreement. You can like it or not. The Europeans don't like it. They don't want us to build in Area C. But this is the agreement between us and the Palestinians. They are building in A and B, and we are building in Area C. I think that both of them do not support attacks against Palestinians, which initiated by extreme settlers. But if you ask if we are doing enough to stop it, the answer is no. We should do more. We should do it more by the Shabak, by the intelligence. We should do it more by the police and by the IDF. We should stop those attacks. There are not so many. There is a huge exaggeration about the number. More Jews had been killed by Palestinians than Palestinians by Israelis. So there is a huge exaggeration, but in spite...
هذا ليس دقيقا بالنظر إلى ما يحدث في داخل قطاع غزة.
No, I'm not speaking about Gaza. I'm speaking about the West Bank. In the West Bank, more Jews had been killed by the Palestinians than Palestinians by Jews. So there is a huge exaggeration about the extreme settlers, or I don't know how many of them are settlers, but the extreme Israelis who are attacking Palestinians. But anyhow, we should stop it.
سؤال أخير، هل تتوقع أن يكون هنالك مزيد من التصعيد بين ترامب ونتنياهو، أم أن الطرفين سيحتويان هذا الوضع الحالي الذي لا يصب بطبيعة الحال في صالح إسرائيل؟
I think that the friction between Israel and America it's not good for Israel, it's not good for America. At the end of the day, the Americans want to achieve something in the Middle East, not just to say we are here. and to achieve what they want, they need Israel. If Israel is not part of the deal, will not be a deal. So I think that at the end of the day, we will find a common language between us and America. But it should be clear. Israel has responsibilities as a state to defend its citizens and soldiers. And for that, to achieve that, we are ready to be in a situation in which we don't agree with the Americans. And if that will be needed, the government of Israel should be very clear. Yes, we don't agree, and we continue to defend our citizens and our soldiers. With all due respect to the Americans, it is our obligation.
السيد يعقوف عميدرور مستشار الأمن القومي الإسرائيلي سابقا ورئيس شعبة الاستخبارات العسكرية، شكرا جزيلا لك على هذا الحوار.
شكرا جزيلا.